Right, you probably know what this is at this point if you watch the other videos. So this is part 3 in the series I'm doing that explains mechanics in the game, or like situations in the game that the game doesn't explain or doesn't teach you because of lack of tutorial mode and information. So you're forced to like look up these resources otherwise on the internet, and you probably find yourself here. So yeah, enjoy the video, I hope you learned stuff from it, and please check out part 1 and 2 of the series. So for the first one of this video, I will talk about active frames. Julia is probably one of the best examples to show off active frames because of her lashing arrow. Now her lashing arrow up close is -3, but if you do it from further out, it can become plus. Now why do you ask this? It's because she's hitting her lashing arrow from a range. So if you do a move from a range, or you set up a move to hit later than it normally would, it will become more fantuous. So in some cases it could be made safe. In some cases it can be made plus, such as Julia's lashing arrow, which is normally -3 up close. But from further out, you can space it out to be neutral or even plus or less minus. And another big example would be a character like Lily and her FC down for 3 slide. So her FC down for 3 slide is launch punchable up close, but if you do it from range, it can be made safer. So this is obviously applicable to a lot of characters. The fact that there are a thing called active frames in Tekken 7, in Tekken in general. So it's more common in 2D games, but there are examples in this game. And it's when you hit a move on a later frame than normally would, making it more fantuous. And yeah, Julia probably is the biggest example of this with lashing arrow, but like I said, there are other examples. Now what I'm about to show now for number 2 is the fact that rage arts and power crushes have 8 frame startup. That they need at least an 8 frame gap in pressure to be able to come out and activate the armor and absorb the move. So I'm going to show like a frame example here. Now I think there are a character or two where the armor will kick in faster. I think Raven's backturn power crush, I might be wrong on that, please correct me, is an example that activates faster. But normally, universally, it is 8 frame across the board. So let me show you a frame example. So for example, Lily's 1-2 into Hopkick. So it's +8 into a 15 frame move. Okay, so it's 7 frame gap. So what happens when I try to power crush and armor? Nothing. My razor armor starts, my razor armor starts, but it doesn't come out. It's the same with the power crush. So let's see what happens when I do Lily's 1-2 into Dumper 2. So +8 into 16 frame moves, so an 8 frame gap. My armor will come out. And also my power crush. So my armor on the power crush and the rage art will come out. That's because there's an 8 frame gap in pressure. So some of you might be wondering, oh, I did rage art, why didn't it come out? It was probably because you didn't have enough frame factor to do it. And universally across the board, it should be 8 frame for both rage arts and for power crushes. But again, correct me, because Alisa did have a 6 frame power crush with downport 1+2 in the last few seasons, but that was patched out. So as far as I know, everyone should be normal, but there might be an exception. So yeah, let me know. So for number 3, let's talk about force crouch property. Now this one's a bit more common knowledge, but I'm kind of running out of ideas, so I'm talking about this. So what it is basically is certain moves on block or on hit will leave you in crouch. So for example, Asuka's Denmark 3. Now I can show this example because I play this character and it's quite important. So if Asuka does Denmark 3, she puts you in crouch, okay? Now the problem is you can sidestep another Denmark 3 if they pull in some player 2 side, because that is her weak side of Denmark 3. However, because I can't step down, I will show this, so I can't step, it's impossible for me to step down. So there are some bypasses to this, like you can just frame crouch cancel or something on a cross up and you can get out of it, but let's talk about normal means. So when Asuka's on player 2 side and she does Denmark 3 to Denmark 3, I'm unable to step it because I can only sidestep left, and that's where it tracks. I can't go right, I go left only on this side, and that's where it tracks. So that's why force crouch property is something important to understand, and it's also why I really dislike the side selection on online, that you don't know what side they're on, because for some characters force crouch is an important part of the game plan, like Asuka for example, her down Mach 3 and her down to forces crouch. So I want to know what side the opponent's playing on for me to abuse certain moves on them, for example. So yeah, this is force crouch and why it's important in neutral, and for some characters it lets some character pressure away because then you know that their move only tracks one way, but because you're on a certain side you can't step in that direction, so they're able to abuse certain moves on you knowing that you can't escape it, you can't step it, and Asuka's really good at that. So yeah, this is force crouch property in a nutshell. So for number 4, I will talk about the difference between crushing and evasion. Now this is where a lot of people get mixed up on. So crushing implies that it's hard coded to avoid whatever it's meant to avoid. So high crush will crush under highs no matter what, right? Now evade will, say like a high evasion move would be like, it will go under some jabs but not all jabs. For example, like it might lose to an electric, which has a very high hit or a very low hitbox for a high. So I'm going to show an example here. So Julia is going to do elbow unblock into QCF2, which is a high natural hit launcher, which can go under some jabs, and I'll show it go under Armour King's jabs. So it'll go under this. Now let me show you an example with Kasumi. Now it's going to lose to Kasumi's jabs. That's because Julia's QCF2 is not a high crush move. It goes under some jabs, so what you would use is Julia's QCF2 can evade some highs, but not all highs, so it's not a high crush move. It loses to some jabs, and it will beat most jabs, but not all jabs. It will lose to some jabs. Therefore, it's not a high crush move. It's a high evasion move. I just want to sneak in a bit of Julia Demplay in there. But yeah, that's the difference between evasion and high crush. High crush will hard code, beat out the move. Evasion will just go under some highs. And it's the same for lows. Like some lows will beat certain low evade moves or whatever. The biggest thing is mid crush. When people say mid crush, it's kind of wrong because it implies it will go under all mids. Like it will go under all mids, when it just goes under some mids that have a high hitbox. That's what it means, right? So let's just say mid evasion, just to be more specific. So for the last thing I want to show for this video is that the fact that hopkicks start up in 9 frame. So what this means is so if Shaheen does jab on hit, so he's +8 into down 3, which is 16 frame low, there's an 8 frame gap, so I don't have any time to hopkick. So as you can see, Katarina starts up the animation of a hopkick, but it doesn't crush fast enough for it to beat Shaheen's down 3. So I think Kasumi's hopkick crushes much later than a normal hopkick, and I think she might be the only example in the game of any hopkick for that to occur. Now if Shaheen does jab into down 4, right? So that is, what's that? That's a much bigger gap than 8 frame anyway, so my hopkick will trigger because there is more than a 9 frame gap. So I'm able to hopkick through. So therefore hopkicks start on frame 9 for low crush. So yeah, that's just an example I wanted to show for hopkicks. Pretty straightforward example, I think. So you need 9 frame for the low crush to occur, to go through a move, to go through a low that is, and get your launch. Otherwise you're just going to be counter hit out of it with a low. And that's it for this series. If you enjoy the series and this video, make sure to leave, a comment for suggestions you want me to explore in future videos. And of course, please subscribe, support the channel and all that. Thanks for watching.